everybody. Welcome. This is Patricia, and I have a wonderful guest that I'm very excited to speak with, Penney Peirce, with me. And we're going to be talking about her book, really her work, but her last book was called Frequency, The Power of Personal Vibration. And Penney Peirce is a respected and gifted intuitive empath. She's a popular author, lecturer, and trainer, and she specializes in intuition and sensitivity development, and she was an early pioneer of the intuition development movement, having worked since 1977 in organizations like the Center for Applied Intuition and the Institute for the Study of Conscious Evolution, the Intuition Network. And she's written other books, but I was given her book in the Evolutionary Collective. We do a lot of work that's very, very aligned with what she's doing. And somebody said, "Oh, you have to read her book." So 2 years ago, I read it, and I was just, highlighted half of every page. I have yellow highlighter on everything. And when I started doing the radio show, she was definitely, in the top 10 on my list of people I absolutely wanted to speak with. So I'm very grateful that you're here, Penney. So welcome. Yeah, I love your work, and I want to just read something that Michael Beckwith, who did your foreword to
Thank you.
Frequency, the Power of Personal Vibration. He says in it, whether electromagnetic, gravitational, or quantum science is revealing what spiritual giants and traditions have told us since the beginning of time, that we are luminous, energetic beings of creative intelligence, fully equipped to consciously participate. And I just want to turn the camera back on our other thing. So he said, I know that your book was written in 2009, and you were talking about that we were moving into the intuition age. And I would love to you to speak about the intuition age and also, what intuition is, your definition of it.
Intuition to me is, I call it direct knowing. It is, really working with the right brain and the body and getting direct immersion into knowing. And now I'm calling it energy information too, because it's a sensitivity, and we're all becoming very ultra sensitive. So there's kind of a new skill now of learning how to interpret energy information directly through the body. That's kind of a new use of intuition, I suppose. And I think the intuition age is, I have to back up, because I think we went through the industrial age, and that was very much about the body, physical stuff, mechanical processes. It was slow, cause and effect, mechanical in very many ways. And that kind of speeded up with the computer coming in, and then that kind of launched the information age, where we went into the mind. So it went from body to mind, and now that's speeding up so much because of the internet, that now we're about to launch into the next level. So I'm calling that intuition age, which is very much based on spirit, but really it's where we start to see ourselves as energy and consciousness-based beings, not physical forms separate from each other in time and space. So it's a whole new reality construct that's coming in now. It's much more based on holograms and fractals and all those things, So, and it's going to really change the way reality works. And we just almost, from within the viewpoint of the old information age, and I call it the old perception, we can barely imagine what it's going to be like, So that's kind of what I've been trying to do with Frequency, and now I'm writing another book that'll take it even further. So I'm halfway through that right now.
What's the subject of that book?
Yeah. It'll be really on this whole new perception, like what it's going to be and how to get into it and how to work it and how it's going to affect us.
Yeah, because I was wondering, when you wrote the book in 2009 and you were saying it was just starting, and in my experience, there's so much more information now about, like Lynn McTaggart wrote the book The Bond, about the space in between, and there's just, it's not prevalent, but there's definitely more people speaking about having a multidimensional sense of each other.
Yes, and I think that's part of the acceleration, that is happening, and it's been happening. It's not like it's just new right
Yeah.
now. It's been happening for a long time. But there's a kind of a real speedy critical mass point that's being reached, I think. I'm not sure that it's this year exactly, but I think this year is really important. 2012 is important as a kind of a freedom year for opening up a lot of flow and breaking through things, stuck places, and really kind of introducing a lot of people to the reality of what we're talking about.
Let's do that a little bit, because I'm sure some people understand and some people don't. So I'm going to ask you to give some definitions, and then I think we can take it farther. But what are energy frequencies? What are energy frequencies or vibrations, and then we can move it into what is your personal vibration, so that people get a sense of.
If everything is made of energy, so it all vibrates. It has a frequency because energy oscillates. It comes and goes, and we basically, in physics, we come out of the what do you call it, the many worlds of where everything exists in a unity, and we rock kind of down in here, and we take shape. We have form. David Bohm calls it the implicate order and explicit order. The infolded and unfolded realms, and so we rock in, and then we rock back out. So we're like a particle while we're here, and then we're a wave of energy, and we leave, and then we come back in, and we go out, and we're doing this constantly. So that's energy, that's a frequency. But each person, each thing, a tree, a rock, a bird, you in a good mood, you in a bad mood, we have these different vibratory rates that our consciousness is vibrating at. And, your personal vibration, I think, is basically what you're vibrating at in a moment. And that would be a combination of your physical health, and how much energy you have physically that day, and your emotional mood, and your mind and what you're thinking about. Are you complaining, or, are you enjoying and talking enthusiastically about what you're doing? And then all of that allows a certain amount of the soul to actually come through. The higher the frequency of the personal self, then the more of the soul vibration can actually come through. And that's kind of what we're after. Where we can get to a vibration where we match the soul, so that we can embody and really bring ourselves all the way into the physical plane and bring that up in vibration. It's not about getting out and leaving. It's about coming in all the way. At least that's my point of view. Does that answer that for you?
Yeah, that's a beautiful answer.
Your personal vibration can change constantly. You get around somebody who's a victim and complaining and draining you, or a place where the energy's bad, and you may match that energy frequency inadvertently, because that's what we do. We're sort of tribal. We get along with each other by connecting with each other and matching frequencies. But when you lower your vibration to match someone who's, in worse shape than you are, that's not very healthy, So we want to maintain our own vibration, or I call it sometimes your preferred state, the way you like to feel at your best, and then let other people match you.
Yeah, and if you have I would imagine if you have a strong enough frequency that's high enough, and you hold it, you can actually pull people up. I mean, that's what a true teacher would do, correct?
Well, it's a tuning fork.
Yeah,
it's probably just physics, and people want to feel better. It's not like you're doing it to them. It's like they find somebody that's funny or happy, and then they want to be around that person because they want to get some of that, And it just works easily. Just the same way it works when you get around somebody who's a downer.
Well, it's interesting. In David Hawkins, Dr. David Hawkins has a book that, he talks about measuring the sort of vibrational levels, in one way. And that below, like when you're operating from pride and below, kind of like as a state of consciousness, fear, anger, despair, etc., that you're actually exhausting to be around. You know, like if you did muscle testing and you were just hanging out with somebody who was totally angry, you'd be exhausted. And that when people start operating at courage and above, that you start to actually feel a positive sense. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, totally. I mean, those higher states are actually self-generating. They actually bring energy in and circulate it, and you get more. Yeah. The other ones, you exhaust yourself and everybody around you, so there's nobody to provide energy anymore.
So let me ask you.
So it's
sorry. Yeah. With the home frequency. So I'd love to distinguish that for people, because I really like that. Because I mean, I know that for me, I'm fast. You know, it's almost like there's different kinds of animals, or like hummingbirds are different than the way a seagull would fly, right? So there's even different speeds as well as higher vibrations. Is that part of like a home frequency?
Well, I think that everything, speeds and vibrations are the same thing.
Okay.
You know.
Got it. Right.
And so it's important not to say that they're good or bad, that a high is good and low is bad, because a rock is low, but it's what it is. You know. But I think that the home frequency is your way of feeling your own soul, or that preferred state where you're happy with yourself. You're like full of yourself, like a little kid. You know, you're feeling enthusiastic, creative, cheerful, sincere. There are a lot of kind of positive energy states that we don't often think of, like sincerity. It's a very high state. Yeah. And those states allow the soul to be present and come through and be the thing that's giving you guidance, where a lot of the other states actually block the flow of the soul. So everyone has their own slight different way of feeling their home frequency, but I think in the end, if you really go to the core, it's the same vibration of higher consciousness that's in everyone.
Hold on, sorry, I just lost my phone. Hold on. Okay, sorry everybody, I kicked my phone onto the floor. Okay, sorry, Penny. Okay, and so this with the home frequency, because I think this can, really make a difference for people, even just listening. And I highly recommend that they read your book, Frequency. Absolutely.
Well, it's very important.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
To know, and it's probably been there through all your past lives, and so it's easy to drop back into it. And if you start feeling bad or upset or contracted, then you've probably matched somebody else's vibration, or something from the past, or somebody else's overlay that they put on you when you were a kid. And you can just take a pause and learn to shift back inside yourself, instead of looking for a sense of happiness or identity in the outside world, which is where you change your personal vibration to match others. You look inside and find your home vibration. It's just a simple thing,
Right.
But it's practice, so that your body gets used to vibrating at that level and thinks that that's normal, rather than, suffering is normal. Because self-sacrifice doesn't work anymore.
Did it ever?
The intuition age.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah. No, it's it doesn't allow the collective consciousness to really function. If one part of the collective consciousness is holding back and saying, "Oh, I'm nothing. I shouldn't do it," or "I'm suffering because no one loves me." But does that help everyone? No. So we've got to be full on radiant beings to help everyone else, and so they can give what they need to give to us. So there are new rules that are coming when we think of ourselves as part of a collective.
Yeah, interesting. I think you'd enjoy the work that I've been doing with Jeff Carrera, who is a part of Andrew Cohen's Enlightened Next community.
Oh, yeah.
So he and I are teaching together, and we have a collective of people where the commitment is to developing a way of being with each other and the practices and stuff to stay as high a vibration as possible.
Oh, that's great.
And when you have each other, I mean, it's also...
It's so much easier.
It's huge. Especially when you've committed to that, instead of that I'm going to, maintain my right to be afraid or scared or, depressed, that nobody has the right to that in the group. So in a moment, we're going to take a break, and then we'll be back with Penney Peirce, and we're talking about frequency. We're talking about a lot of things, but we're talking about frequency and the power of personal vibration and intuition. And I want to talk to her. Actually, I want to talk to her about a lot of things, but I want to talk a bit about conscious sensitivity and some of the different multidimensional capacities that are beginning to come online for more and more people. And I want to ask her about that because she is an expert at that. So we'll see you in a couple of moments. Hi, it's Patricia Albere, and I'm back with Penney Peirce. And we're talking about intuition and frequency and the age of intuition, which I absolutely concur. I agree that we're definitely moving into a different time. One of the other things that I wanted to ask you about, Penney, is what is conscious sensitivity? What do you mean when you say that we're, that one of the things that's necessary is a kind of conscious sensitivity?
Yes, and I was saying before that because the acceleration on the planet is going so fast, and literally the vibration of the physical plane is going faster, so your body is going faster, you become more sensitive to everything. So the highly sensitive people are increasing on the planet now, and that means we're picking up information through the body. So I was calling that energy information. Mm-hmm. So conscious sensitivity is, I think, that skill of being able to be aware of what you're picking up from your body through waves or impressions. Literally, I often think of myself as kind of like a Tempur-Pedic mattress, where things just push on me and then I, come back to my regular shape. And you can start to pay attention to very subtle impressions that are coming from the people around you or even from events that are nearby in space or even in time. So we're getting very, very aware of a lot of things, but we're not realizing it yet. That's why I say conscious, because we're unconsciously sensitive, but we need to bring that up into the left brain and let it register,
It seems too, like in the work that we're doing, like that it helps to practice, because intuition. You were also talking about heightened empathy as one of the parts of sensitivity, telepathy, being able to actually read each other's minds and pick up on stuff. I mean, you were born that way, I think, right? You developed it? Okay.
No, I wasn't. No, I grew up else. That just followed my curiosity and got here.
Towards it,
so
to allow those parts of oneself to awaken. How do you see? I mean, we do practices together. Do you know what I mean, with other people, so that you can, feel into those impressions and see what's going on. How do you recommend that people, if they're open, develop that conscious sensitivity if they're on their own?
Yes, you have to be interested. I do something, I call it working with the inner perceiver. And to me, that is a function of your own consciousness that helps you notice what you notice. Now, some people might call it the Holy Spirit or your inner teacher or something, but to me, it's a function of consciousness. And I made an agreement to trust that part. And so I talk to it all day. I go, oh, why am I noticing this? Okay, what's the hidden message in that? Or what's the lesson here? Or why did this just happen? So I ask that deeper part of myself to, help me understand things. And it's kind of like I guess in Buddhism it would be an inquiry practice or a mindfulness practice. But it's like I'm tapping into my left brain, right brain, left brain, right brain, left brain, right, going back and forth, picking up on feeling states and then bringing it into the left brain to say, what is it? Then I go back and I feel again and I bring it back again. And I think that's an easy process anybody can do,
Right. And you could even just feel into things. You also were saying that, sensing into, like if you had a question or a problem or you just wanted to even really get to know like who's really there. You meet someone, is that you also have this sort of feeling quality of feeling into them.
Yes, and I think the more we work with empathy and energy sensitivity, I mean, you could start feeling into, another way to say that would be merging with something.
Right.
You could merge with a tree.
Yeah.
And go into it and pretend that you are the tree, literally. And just get in there and feel like the sap and the branches and how it is if your body had morphed into being a tree. You know, or you could be in a coffee cup, you know, or you could do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And you could know its form of life and its kind of consciousness and what it symbolizes and what it is by merging into, and then coming back to yourself in your own form and saying, so what is that? What did that mean to me? Is that useful to me? You need to oscillate, go out and feel other things or other people, but then come back to yourself and make it palatable to yourself, you know, make it meaningful. Otherwise, you end up, you know, almost tipping over by going, you're top heavy, you know, you've gone into somebody else and you're living over there. You're not in your own center. So yeah, feeling into is just like letting yourself become the other thing, and the knowledge of it comes through your body.
Mm-hmm. It seems too like that when you do that, your sense of self, even though you have a place where you can locate yourself, is looser. You know, you're less of a separate thing interacting with other things.
You're right, and that also gives us a good lesson about the fact that there's one consciousness running through everything. Mm-hmm. You know, that if I'm in the tree, I'm in the coffee cup, I'm in the table, I'm in, you know, the bird, or you. Mm-hmm. You know, it's the same feeling in there. It's me. I'm in there.
Right.
You know? And so I can be anything, and it makes me feel bigger. It makes me get a sense of the bigger self, you know, the collective soul. Mm-hmm. And I think we're all going to be doing that. We'll be both. We'll be my individual body here, and then I'm everything, too. You know, and I oscillate back and forth between the, again, particle, which would be my body, and the whole, the big thing, the field, which would be the whole collective consciousness.
Right.
You know, and that's going to be a new skill.
Yeah. Well, it seems that we're moving, you know, the science has gone into the quantum physics realm and David Bohm and, you know, the various things, that our consciousness is catching up with those conversations and those perspectives so that we don't feel like separate objects in a mechanical world.
Yes.
Anymore.
I think that it's starting to be interpreted as personal as well as impersonal.
Yes.
That the personal and impersonal realms are connecting, that the impersonal is personal.
Right.
It's all inside your present moment. There's
right.
nothing outside you. And you know, neuroplasticity and all that, this work with the brain now, that we can change the brain, has really contributed to that, I think. Mm-hmm. Because now, a lot of those principles we're seeing in the way the brain functions. And that's amazing, because that makes a connecting link for
right.
us.
Well, it's interesting, you know, it's sort of when you listen, if you know anything about like Tantra, you know, mm-hmm. it's sort of like ultimately like Tantra, where you feel yourself, you feel your beloved simultaneously. You can actually feel what it's like to be inside of them, and then you feel what's happening between you all at once. Mm-hmm. So yes. Your consciousness is everywhere intensely.
Yes.
And so it's looser and it's more multidimensional instead of linear. So you know, yeah. Hopefully we'll all be swimming in that at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also too, you know, in that unified field, if you want to say anything about, you know, there's no time in that. You know, I could be in the coffee cup, but I could also take my consciousness and go exploring into the future or the past.
Sure, because it's all in the present moment now.
Right.
There is no future and past anymore.
Right.
It's all in you.
And I can feel you, even though you're in California, you know, there's
exactly.
no real distance.
Yeah. And it's awesome, you know, and it's like you can go into, it's like everything is like little spherical realities. Like memories are like little balls floating in space, and you can merge into one of those and you'd be back in it, living it in the present moment. Totally. Or you could go into anything. it's going to be awesome in terms of the way, I have to use that word, awesome, dude, but it's going to be great. And just so many discoveries and different ways of doing things when it's not slowed down by being linear, and that linear reality is really holding us back. Too much cause and effect, too much only logic, only left brain. Because, if you go into the right brain, there is no time in the right brain. There's no language in the right brain. It's purely, immersed, direct experience, and very unified.
How do you see in relationship resonance? So this is obviously, you're talking about how different things are affecting us. What about, if like you and I are in an ongoing friendship and we're practicing this way of being with each other. We're not just, sort of going to the normal separate sense of, you're over there, I'm over here. What do you see as possible if people are relationally, consciously trying to develop this level of awareness? What do you see as possible?
Well, I think that there's a conscious agreement that needs to be made that we're going to really try to practice staying in the heart, in the home frequency.
Okay.
And of course, people plug each other in, and they get into moods, and they get into reactions, and go into old perception. So the agreement is that the other person will remind you, when you're doing that, so that, and be with you, and let you have your way out of it, so that you can recenter again and just return to your preferred state. And tolerating that, knowing that I'm not going to abandon you if you, slip a little bit and just are human, and do the regular emotional thing, because that's just our learning process.
Right.
So it's tolerant, I think. And
you had written a little bit. Also, oh, sorry. Go ahead. No, please go ahead.
That when you get into that kind of connection, you realize that there's something beyond both of you. That's kind of, I call it the relationship entity, where it's the collective of both people's souls or their desires or needs or lessons, and they match each other. If you connect with someone that way, then you overlap, obviously, or you couldn't appear together. And so then you realize that relationship entity is often speaking through either one of your mouths, so that if your friend says something to you, you know that that's you saying that to you. So you don't say, oh, you're doing that to me.
Yes.
You say, we're doing this. And it makes it a lot easier because it's not so confrontational.
Yeah.
Oppositional.
I think it can also go to very high levels, because when you're both surrendered at that level and you start to meet, then something else entirely can start to speak through both of you.
That's right.
And take you higher than you could even imagine.
Yeah. Yeah.
You had
it's
said
a great path.
Say that again?
I said it. The practice with relationships is a really good path, to speed up your growth.
Yeah. Do you see a possibility? One of the things that got me excited, I've been working with people forever, for 40 years, and when I read Teilhard de Chardin, and I think Sri Aurobindo was speaking about, if you could get a collective of people to be willing to get themselves in shape, to be in a certain level of consciousness and to really devote themselves to being really interconnected in a way that something could descend. Something could begin to occur that could be quite, that could uplift the world. Does that make sense to you, given your work?
Oh, absolutely. It's like I've been getting that the next step now is going to be something, it's called the convening in my terminology that comes to me. And it has to do with when enough people are in their home frequency and it becomes normal to their body. In other words, they saturate with it. And then their fields become their home frequency. Then they start to actually appear in each other's fields. It's not like you attract them and they come to you. They just appear out of you. You
right.
appear their field. They appear in your field. And suddenly we're all together in a common vibration. And you realize that each person has kind of a piece of the puzzle, that there's some work or some project or something they want to do creatively in the world, and then people will start working together in groups.
Yeah.
And then that group mind starts to happen, which is the bigger version of the relationship entity. And it's not that something descends, it's something ascends out of the white holes of the center particles of everybody. It
Right.
just comes out of matter, because we're here all the way. And now spirit, or the group souls, can move through people and start to guide, the synchronicities and the opportunities that need to come, and things will happen much faster. A lot of inventions. I've been seeing this for years, of these circles of young people, like children, who are inventing new technologies in groups.
It's interesting. You had a quote in your book that I loved, because I feel, I'll say what it is in a minute. It says, "The universe is more like music than like matter," by Donald Hatch Andrews.
Yes.
And what you're saying, and I've sort of used it, is like, it's like when a group gets like that, you feel like you're in a jazz DJ. There's something else that's happening than people's having personal growth. It's something that's more like music.
Mm-hmm. And it's like a live video game, too. Everybody's
Right.
changing everybody else's thing, It's great.
Yeah, definitely. So what are you, let me just see if there's anything else I wanted to ask. What are some of the ways, so this is practical for people that maybe, this is useful, is when you are in some kind of negative vibration, what are some of the best ways to lift off, to not get stuck in a certain swirl?
Well, I think it's good to distract yourself in some way.
Okay.
It's okay not to necessarily go eat, a chocolate or something, but change your activity a little bit, just to move or get some energy moving. And pause. See if you can stop the internal speech, the external speech, go blank, and breathe. And just, try to get recentered and take your attention off the tape loop, because sometimes that's hard. You get in it and you're sort of feeling stuck in it. But if you can distract yourself for a while and just have a little pause, then you can separate from it. Mm-hmm. Then you can start to go back to your home frequency and go through sometimes it's a series of triggers or memories that you have that you can get back into your home frequency, like looking at a baby's eyes or playing with a puppy or something that makes you feel happy again. And then you can lead yourself back into it,
That's good. You said, one of the things you said in your book too was, finding your destiny solves your soul's only problem. I thought that was really good. Destiny is your highest frequency life, and it leads to the experience of unity. So can you say some more about that?
Yeah, I think that destiny is really what the soul would like to create. And it's, if all the clutter were out of the way, all of your fears and other people's ideas and things that you think, why you think you can't, and all your yes buts, if they were gone, what you would think of to do would be what you love, and that would be your destiny. Mm-hmm. And I think, if the soul could have a problem, that it would be that it's not able to get through. And that it's having to wait and then, okay, now she's making this decision. and wouldn't it be nice if it could just slide right through? Yeah. So, and that you were happy with it. You didn't block it with, complaining or something.
Well, and fear. I think a lot of people, that thing with that scale of where you get stuck in the negative, what I thought was very curious was that courage is where you go positive. So everything below courage was a kind of negative, element. And I thought, it always takes as soon as courage comes on board, which your destiny totally needs, then you have a chance to get something going.
Yeah, and I think maybe that has to do with the shift in the body from the third chakra to the fourth chakra, because the courage is about the heart. It comes from the word heart. Yeah. And so I think that would be the turning point where you're moving out of the adrenals and fight or flight and out of willpower into more of that understanding from the heart, and then you can see what you want to do from that point.
Beautiful. That's very good. Okay, we're going to take one more short break. When we come back, so I'm with Penney Peirce, and we're talking about just different elements of her work. Her book is called Frequency. The latest one, she's writing a new one, so I'm sure like in another year or so, maybe we'll have that
next
one.
May. Next May. Oh,
and,
yep.
Yeah, and when we come back, we'll be talking. I want to talk to her about what's, kind of what's on the edge of what she's discovering right now. So, because I'm sure she's in a whole new part of her process. So, join us. We'll be back in just a Okay, welcome back. This is Patricia Albere, and I am with Penney Peirce. And what I want to talk to you about now, Penney, is to find out, I know that you're in the middle of writing another book, which is a whole process, a whole world of being immersed. And I just want to know, like, what's on the edge of your consciousness? What are you fascinated with? What are you discovering now in, the edge of your journey in your work?
What's fascinating to me is holographic reality and how that's going to work. And, things like even like time travel. Although I don't know that I'll ever do this, in the body, but getting the sense of how these things can work in the intuition age. I'm sort of trying to, I guess you'd say, feel into this part of the future, which isn't really in the future, it's in me now. If I can get my frequency to match that, I can feel it, So I'm trying to do that.
Say a little. If
go ahead.
Wait, before you go on, say a little bit more about a holographic world, or holographic worlds. What does that mean? Make that.
Holograms. It's where each piece of it contains the whole thing.
Okay.
So in brain science, they have found that memory is holographic, that one part of the brain contains all the memory, any part of the brain. And any part of the visual cortex could be, taken as a sample and would show everything that the eyes are seeing. And it's like life is that way. We are that way. Each one of us unfolds or, has within us the entire universe and collective consciousness, and every part of us has it. So it leaves open some wonderful ideas about moving through time and space, through going down into any part, going down, inside, not out, but being able to travel through inner worlds, So that's sort of fascinating, and I'm just trying to get my whole self around this or in it or something to translate it. So that's part of what I'm doing now.
Interesting.
But I still think that there are a lot of people going through some of the difficult parts of the transformation process and just waking up. And we're seeing it in politics, and we're seeing it, in the world where things that are blocked, are going to go through revolution. There's going to be, I don't know, but old conservative thinking and things that are too slow, they just can't work anymore. So it's going to be interesting to see how that shifts in a win-win fashion, which I think it has to evolve in the next year or two. But I also am very interested in continuing to help people find the pathway through transformation and understand it as something that's not scary, because it isn't. And that frequency, I wrote about the stages of the process so people could kind of get an idea where they are and what comes next. So those are some things.
I mean, just to underline, getting the book there, because you do go over the 9 stages of what people are seem to be going through, and I resonate. It made sense.
And of course, I simplified that a lot to make it into 9 stages. It's not quite so tidy, but but it gives some kind of an idea of the process, because I think there is a process.
Do you see that coming together? Because one of the things that I see is there's so much information. Everybody has so many ways to work with themselves. Processes and different techniques, and I mean, just the internet it's unbelievable. I mean, anything you'd ever want to know about anything. And I think people are overwhelmed to some degree, and
I do too.
I know for me, if I don't have other people that I can practice with, that I can live my life differently with, I find it, I don't know, it's not just difficult, it's not fun. It's like you're reading your books and you're taking things and then you're trying to deal with a relatively unenlightened world. I do feel like that we need to find each other more. So,
That's coming. You're right. And that's, I think, the next stage. But there's some work that has to be done alone.
Yes.
First,
I agree.
where you have to be able to go into the inner world. And partly what I'm a little concerned about these days is the shallowness of consciousness because of so much technology and cell phones, that people are not taking the time to stop and get into their bodies. And that feels a little dangerous to me. But I think you're right that it really helps to have that communion with other people and reinforcement with other people. So a spiritual community, good friends, spiritual friends are really important right now. And just talking more like we're doing. I mean, there's so many radio shows on now and so many people are talking. But then again, like you're right about it being complicated and everybody's, I'm just advocating simplicity. And the easiest things to try to find commonality between the different viewpoints, and that's what I've been trying to do anyway, is synthesize different views and provide connecting links between the different views so that it makes one big picture that you can understand it. And if you can understand the pattern, then you can figure out your own way through it, what you like to do. But you've got to get the basic principles down, that's all,
Yeah, and also culture, which is where things live ultimately, is based on agreements, different ways of being together. And the ways, that we are in 2012 is different than it was in the 1960s. When you were saying the age of intuition, it would be being together with obviously deeper skills, but also a different agreement in how we are together. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And not just how we are together, but how the world functions.
Yes.
Right. It's a different set of rules coming in now. It's much more in the present moment, so it's immediate, it's rapid. Everything's interconnected. And the more we practice knowing that, then the more that will become real.
Oh, here's a good question for you. Okay, all of my friends, who are teachers and doing all this stuff, right? We're all completely overwhelmed. Okay, it's just like this sort of happy overwhelm. It's not a bad overwhelm, but we're just sort of, and the creativity and the opportunities and it's just, I'm like busier than I've been in 30 years. So, do you have anything to say about how do we? Because I don't think it's going away. I think it's actually going to keep speeding up. Anything to say about how to relax into it? How are we going to navigate this new speed without trying to stop something?
For me, it has to do with not trying to take on everything, not trying to jump over every bowling ball that comes rolling at me, and to narrow down the amount of things I'm doing so that I can enjoy them and feel peaceful while I'm doing them. And have confidence at the same time that everything is actually very interconnected. And sometimes if I think of something that needs to be done, if I put it out into the field, then somebody ends up doing it. Or there are some kind of synchronicities, or somebody just calls and said, I'm doing this. It's like things just start happening. So I think we have to practice that sense of being supported, knowing that whatever we need is going to come. We don't have to do everything. There's going to be plenty of people doing a lot of things. So you do what you like to do that supports you in the way you like to be supported, and have fun doing it. That attitude. Yeah. That's all I know at this point, because I can't function when I'm overwhelmed. I don't function. So I'm not taking on that much.
I wonder too, though. I mean, I think it's partly that, and then maybe we're changing. Because if you think about like things like a car is going along a bumpy road, it feels like it's like a lot of friction.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you were in outer space and you're going a gazillion miles an hour, you feel like you're floating.
Uh-huh.
So, and one's going a lot faster, but there's less friction. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
also wondering if we're going to be asked to keep releasing our own resistance or ways of being that make the speed problematic.
Well, I think the thing to
Too,
release is,
also.
yes, I think the thing to release is that the willpower and that need that I have to do a lot now because a lot needs to be done.
Right.
And I have to go faster and put more tasks in constantly every day, and it's all about speeding up in the physical plane,
Right.
in time and space, according to cause and effect reality. But really, we're starting to merge into the energy and consciousness world where you can do things through thought. So telepathy comes in here, you know. You might not have to do everything with, physical
Movement.
seminars,
Right.
Or whatever it is. There'll still be the need to do things well in the physical world, to ground and externalize the internal world, And I think that it will become more important to have craft, good skills, mechanical skills, and not to just do physical things in a fast, shoddy way, which
Right.
I'm seeing a lot of these days. People who don't pay enough attention. So I think a lot of it is that we're transferring a lot of the work into the inner worlds, if that makes sense. How that's going to look, I'm not exactly sure yet.
Yeah, but it would make sense more the creativity and power and intention and the speed of manifestation, is just more effortely if you're at a higher vibration.
That's great.
So it
and
doesn't take
everybody
as much
collaborating.
work. Yeah, definitely.
Just you alone doing it, which is a kind of a lie these days.
Yeah.
We're not alone. We're so interconnected. So you can make your own choices, but everybody's helping you make those choices. And you're doing it for everybody.
Right. Definitely. Yeah, that's beautiful. Is there anything, so your website, I want to make sure people know how to find you, is Penney, Penney, Peirce.
No, P-E-I. Both of my names are spelled oddly. It's Penney, E-Y, and Peirce, P-E-I.
Okay, I want to make sure that's right. Okay, so it's Penney, Penney, and then Peirce is Peirce.
Yes.
.com. Okay.
Yeah.
So pennypeirce.com. And anything else that you want to say about how, what you would suggest that people find out about your work, besides reading the last book?
Well, The Intuitive Way is the other book that I think is important, and it's been, out for a long, long time. It's in its 3rd edition, and it's all over the world. But it's a course on intuition development that goes with frequency, and it'll be kind of a trilogy with this last book when it comes out. So all 3 of them will be kind of tied together. So if people are looking for some good basic skills, that's a pretty good book. And let's see, I'm traveling a little bit in the fall. Like I'll be at Kripalu in September, if anybody wants a live workshop.
Yeah.
But mainly I'm just doing some private sessions by phone, reduced number until I finish the book. So, but you can find out about that on my website.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Okay, I want to thank you again, and I want to tell people a little bit about what's next, what we'll be doing next, and that actually I'm going to be in LA, which will be fun. So our next show, which is next Tuesday, is on May 15th, and I'll be doing it with Jeff Carrera. That's our monthly show that we do together. And we were having a conversation, and he brought up something that I thought was really interesting, which is looking at your life from a place of deep time. It's like, what are we really here for? From a much larger span of time and impact and influence, which is a level that we don't often look at. And often I think people don't have that sense of themselves as maybe even having historical impact on the world. So the name of this show is called Consider Living an Epic Life. And we were also, Jane McGonigal, we'll be sending that out. There's a TED Talk by a wonderful woman who was saying that over 1 billion people are full-fledged experts at playing video games. You know, my son being one of them. And in a virtual domain, which they can save the world and be totally optimistic and join together with other people and work together and have an epic win, and that it's literally compelling. Over 1 billion people on the planet to spend an inordinate amount of time doing that. And we were just wondering, like, what does that mean? What does that mean about who we are, our desire to actually have more of a real place in our destiny? Like you said, it solves the soul's problem if you actually begin to discover like who you are and why you're really here. So we're going to talk about this sense of expanded perspective on the scale of time and magnitude within which you live your life, so you can start to look at that maybe a little bit differently. The other thing is, I'll be in Los Angeles twice in June, one on June 9th and 10th. A good friend of mine, Kenneth Schwenker, who does Leaders Causing Leaders, is opening up his giant space. He's got space for over 1,000 people. It's called the One Love Fest. And there's going to be music and all kinds of things, so that'll be fun. And then I'll be doing the Evolutionary Relationships course at the end of the month there live, which should also be fun. So I want to thank you again, Penny, for your work. And I can't wait to read the next book. And I love the fact that there'll be a trilogy.
Great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
it was
thank
great.
you so much. And I'll see everybody next week. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for listening.